So Push Me to My Limit was, for me, the perfect song to start the record, because it feels like a song that kind of connects the two eras of album 1 and album 2. I think it's still very much me thinking about the topics that were on album 1 and the kind of difficult relationships that happened in that time. And I guess I was still kind of processing all of that information and kind of wondering what it means to be pushed to the edge and how it makes you feel so kind of alone, but then really aware of who you are afterwards. And I guess as I was moving into a new phase of my life, it felt like that's always going to happen. I'm always going to be pushed to my limit, and I'm always going to find a way to kind of come back from that. So it's not sad, and it's definitely not meant to make anyone feel sorry for me or anything, but it's just a kind of like change of mood. Here we are into the new time, so it felt right to go first.
Our love's not real, it's nothing. Give up, it's not.
So I think similarly to Push Me to My Limit, Reborn has elements of the first album, those years, and almost like a hangover of those emotions. I think I'd been sat in the tour bus for a little while, wanting to kind of get something out of my system, and it was the first song that Friars and I wrote together, and it just was so instantly addictive and kind of like a Euro pop banger that we just couldn't stop listening to. And at first I kind of thought, oh, it's going to be like a happy up-tempo thing, but then it had this really strong undercurrent of just very concentrated emotion. And I think it was me just saying, okay, this is a fresh start, a new beginning. Can everyone just kind of let me just get on with this new phase and not kind of hold anything against me that's happened in the past. And that's not just musically, it's kind of about past relationships and sexuality and not wanting to be put into a box. I'd Let It Go. We were writing a song about basically me being single and being in this phase where I was in loads of situations where I had the opportunity to go out and meet people and be in a cool party or a club or have the chance to go up and talk to someone. And most of the time I'd not do it, and I'd just kind of pull myself away and go home and then feel like I'd really just not given myself the best chance to even make new friends and kind of, I don't know, find a potential boyfriend or girlfriend. And I'd be at home full of energy, just wishing that I'd been brave enough to do that when I was out. The first came to life in LA when Friars and I we did kind of 2 months out there, I think. And then I also finished a lot of the production with these guys called My Riot, Tim and Roy. We spent kind of, I think, 2 months with those guys just kind of going through everything with a fine tooth comb, and I actually delved deeper into what the sonic was, because we kind of sketched out everything together and then we needed to really finish it, and that's the hardest bit, I think, really finishing things. And the production, that it's just a light, energetic pop song, but it's always so important to me to have small, beautiful elements and lots of sweeping backing vocals and melodies. So it's quite dense, really. There's a lot of stuff in there, but I guess it was just mixed well.
We could write another duet, or instead, babe, we could just do it.
So my first album, there was a song called Cold that was written with Friars, and it was about a fictitious relationship, really wasn't about our situation. So then to get to album 2 and for us to write a song about our current relationship, it felt like a really kind of comical and wonderful situation to be in. And I guess it is a kind of sequel to Cold. And It's literally just a song about two people finding the courage to do something that could be a little bit dangerous if you've been friends for so long, but it just feels right and it feels like the good thing to do.
Cannot wait for the rain to remove this lover's pain. I cannot wait.
Wait for the Rain was written in LA. There was one day that it was really rainy and almost apocalyptic. It felt like the world was going to end. It was just really kind of unlike LA to have this really kind of dark, moody sky, and Wait for the Rain just came from me singing a series of melodies and singing those words, and a story formed that wasn't necessarily about me, but it was a kind of empathetic story about a girl who is completely heartbroken and she can't wait for the rain to take all that pain away. And I just think it's a kind of, yeah, a beautiful story.
Shower me with kisses, the way your breath against my skin makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand tall. Feel like I've not felt before.
When the moment came to going back into the studio, it felt really obvious that Fryers and I hadn't really ever spent a lot of time together writing. It was always a quick session here or there. And on the first album we did 2 tracks, but we never had a long period of time to actually be in the same space and see what could actually happen if we really put our heads together. The first 6 months, kind of we started to change a little bit from our friendship that was really secure because we'd known each other for say 5 years, kind of started to change into a slightly different atmosphere, and we became really close. This song, Lower the Tone, is definitely the one that really captured all of the energy and the feelings that were in the room present as we were writing the songs. And it's a song about intimacy and closeness, and I think at the time that was something that I was still really kind of not that great at, and almost as we were kind of talking it through and having all these conversations, we kind of broke down barriers and created something from the awkwardness of writing about intimacy.
Everything is drenched in finer things. I can feel.
The day before, I'd had a songwriting session with 2 people, and the idea for Physical Form had formed in that session, because it was a bit of a negative experience, and basically I was kind of ignored in the songwriting session and felt like I hadn't been able to really give my voice and my opinion in the actual writing session. So the next day I kind of went straight into the studio and wrote about that experience of feeling like I was a bit invisible in an environment where you want to be able to have your voice heard. And so it's kind of, it's all about feeling like you can see the hairs on somebody's arm. You're that close to them, but they aren't giving you the respect and the time of day that you deserve, which I think sometimes happens in music. And I've not experienced it a lot, but that was one time where I thought it's important to kind of write about that.
Doing it for the first time. We better hope our body's right. Gonna dip my toe, gonna
Dip my toe. This is a really fun one to write, and we were in LA again. We were with Buddy Ross, who is a brilliant piano player and producer and songwriter, and he plays keys for Frank Ocean. He's super cool. So it was me, Buddy, and Fryers, and he had this amazing kind of, it was this big studio block where everyone rehearsed. I think it's called Bedrock, and his studio was just one of the small rooms in there, but you could hear all the other bands rehearsing at the same time, so it was just this like mess of noise. So we couldn't really hear even what we were doing in his little room, but we created this kind of proper pop song, but it's got this kind of dirty grit to it, and yeah, it's about trying something for the first time and hoping it works. I think the idea of collaboration has become really important to me. And on this record as well, it's changed, because I think the first record I wasn't really sure who I wanted to work with. I was trying lots of different styles of songwriters and producers, but this album has been a very small handful of my friends and people that I really admire.
You can rest assured you're not the only one.
I guess it is an accidental concept album about love, but it's also about the wider picture for everybody out there. And I think about fans a lot, and basically a fan of mine, when we were writing this song, the title track, Someone Out There, he sent a load of amazing gifts to the studio where we were working, and they were like beautiful hand embroidered silk scarves and all this like really creative, beautiful stuff. And I guess straight away you think, oh, is this kind of a bit strange, or like what does this mean? And you read into all these things, and then you think, no, this is like the nicest thing that anyone's ever done, because they've spent so much of their time and really wanted to connect with a stranger because they have a common interest, which is obviously music. And that's when we wrote Someone Out There, because it felt like a real clarity that you could meet someone on the street and have one thing in common and become completely connected with that. And I think it's yeah, a nice message.
What you're going through, I can't imagine.
Rose Garden is a really special one to me, actually. It's about feeling frustrated that you can't do anything physically to help someone. And it's about a friend of mine who has lived with an illness for a long time, and wanting to be able to kind of physically get something done in order to help with that. I think it's my favourite production, and I put a lot of my kind of taste into this tune, like kind of a direction that I'd like to explore more and go more into this production world.
Keep it light, you'll be led, hazel eyes.
It's a beautiful love story about two old people that happen to be my best friend's grandparents, and they're from Blackpool, and they go dancing, well, they went dancing together pretty much every night in the local working man's club, jive dancing. And sadly, Hazel passed away a few years ago, but George still goes and dances every night at the club. From what I've heard, he holds a lot of his memories of Hazel in the movement and in the dance, and I just thought that was beautiful. It definitely felt like a new way of songwriting. On the first album, I was very insular with where I found inspiration from. It was all about my own thoughts and feelings. But I think touring and kind of growing up a little bit and having great conversations with people made me realise that you can actually, as a songwriter, have empathy and kind of really find amazing tales to tell through meeting other people. And yeah, I've learned quite a lot about songwriting through doing that.